My name is Clara Jackson, and I am 57 years old. The hands that hold this pen have picked more cotton than I could ever count, have scrubbed floors until my knees bled, and have endured things no human soul should bear. But these same hands also held secrets that could have destroyed the most powerful man in our county. This is my story, and it begins in the suffocating heat of a Georgia summer in 1848. I was 20 years old when Master Thomas Whitmore first looked at me differently. Not with the casual cruelty I had grown accustomed to, but with something else entirely. Something that made my stomach twist with fear and confusion. I had been born on the Whitmore plantation, just like my mama before me, and her mama before that. We were property, listed in ledgers alongside livestock and furniture. But that summer, I became something else in his eyes. The main house stood like a white monument to everything we could never have. Its columns reached toward heaven as if claiming divine right to own human beings. I worked in that house from sunrise to long after sunset, cleaning, cooking, serving. Mrs. Elizabeth Whitmore was a thin woman with sharp features and sharper words. She treated us like we were less than the dogs that slept at her feet. But Master Thomas, he was different in those early days. Not kind, mind you. A man who owns other people can never truly be kind. But he was less cruel than most. It started with small things. He would find reasons to be in whatever room I was cleaning. He would brush past me in the narrow hallways, closer than necessary. He would watch me serve dinner, his eyes following my movements in a way that made Mrs. Elizabeth's face go tight with rage. The other house servants noticed too. Mama pulled me aside one evening, her weathered face creased with worry. "Baby girl, you be careful," she whispered as we stood in the quarters, the small wooden shacks where we lived, stacked together like coffins. "When a master takes interest, ain't nothing good can come of it. You hear me?" I heard her. But what choice did I have? When you are property, your body is not your own. Your will is not your own. Even your fear belongs to someone else. The first time he called me to his study, my legs shook so hard I could barely walk. It was late evening, and most of the other servants had been dismissed to the quarters. He sat behind his massive oak desk, papers spread before him, a glass of whiskey in his hand. The lamplight cast shadows across his face, making him look older than his 40 years. "Clara," he said, and my name in his mouth felt like a violation. "You are different from the others, more refined, more intelligent." I kept my eyes down, as we were taught. Never look a white person directly in the eyes. Never speak unless spoken to. Never, ever show what you truly think. "Yes, master," I whispered. "Look at me," he commanded. I raised my eyes slowly, fighting every instinct that screamed danger. His face was flushed, whether from whiskey or something else. I could not tell. "You are beautiful," he said simply. "Surely you know that." My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. This was the moment I had dreaded, the moment every enslaved woman feared. We all knew the stories. We all knew what happened when masters decided they wanted more than just our labor. "I am married to a woman who is cold as winter ice," he continued, taking another drink. "She performs her duties as a wife with all the enthusiasm of someone attending a funeral. But you, Clara, you have fire in you. I can see it." What he saw as fire was actually terror, barely controlled. But I could not tell him that. I could not tell him that every fiber of my being wanted to run, to scream, to fight. Because running meant the dogs, screaming meant the whip, fighting meant death, or worse. "I will take care of you," he said, standing and moving around the desk. "Better than the others. You will have fine dresses, better food. Your mother will be moved to easier work. All you have to do is be kind to me, Clara. Be kind, and everything will be easier." The room felt smaller with each step he took toward me. I could smell the whiskey on his breath, the tobacco on his clothes. His hand reached out and touched my face, and I had to force myself not to flinch. "Do you understand what I am offering you?" he asked. I understood perfectly. He was offering me a choice that was not really a choice. Accept his advances and receive slightly better treatment, or refuse and face consequences that could extend to my entire family. This was the mathematics of enslavement. Every decision, a calculation of suffering. "Yes, master," I said, because those were the only words I had. That night, began a relationship that the outside world would have called many things: adultery, fornication, scandal, but they would never call it what it truly was: rape. Because how can there be consent when one person owns the other? How can there be choice when refusal means punishment or death? Mrs. Elizabeth knew, of course. Women always know. Her hatred for me grew sharp and pointed, like broken glass. She found reasons to punish me, to humiliate me in front of the other servants. Once she made me stand in the hot sun for 6 hours without water because I had allegedly folded her linens incorrectly. Another time, she slapped me across the face so hard my ear rang for days, claiming I had been impudent, though I had said nothing at all. But Master Thomas protected me, in his way. His protection was another chain, gilded but just as binding. He gave me a small room in the back of the house, away from the quarters. He brought me dresses that had belonged to his wife, altered to fit me. He would sit with me after his visits, talking about his day, his frustrations, his dreams, as if we were equals, as if I had any choice but to listen. "You understand me, Clara," he would say. "My wife never did. She married me for my family's name and money. But you see the real me." I saw him clearly, though not in the way he imagined. I saw a man who convinced himself that what he was doing was love rather than violence. I saw someone who needed to believe that I wanted him, that I chose him, because the alternative would force him to confront what he truly was. A man who used his power to take what should never be taken. The months passed, and I learned to survive in this new role. I learned to smile when he entered the room, to appear grateful for the scraps of better treatment. I learned to make my face a mask, to hide Clara, the real Clara, somewhere deep inside where his hands could not reach. The other enslaved people on the plantation viewed me with a mixture of pity and resentment. Some thought I had it easier, that I should be grateful for the lighter work, the better food. They did not understand that some chains are invisible, but just as heavy. Mama understood, though. She would hold me on the nights when I managed to slip away to the quarters, would stroke my hair and sing old songs in a language that had been beaten out of us generations ago, but somehow survived in melody. "You are stronger than this," she would whisper. "You are more than what he makes you. Remember that, baby girl. Remember who you are." But some days, I struggled to remember. Some days, I felt like Clara was disappearing, being replaced by whatever image Master Thomas had created in his mind. I was becoming a ghost in my own body, watching from a distance as he touched me, talked to me, claimed to love me. Then, one autumn evening, everything changed. Master Thomas called me to his study, but this time his face was different, serious, almost frightened. He paced back and forth, running his hands through his hair before finally turning to face me. "Clara," he said, "I need you to do something for me, something important, something that must remain completely secret." And with those words, I stepped into a web of deception that would eventually lead to the revelation that changed everything I thought I knew about the Whitmore family, about Master Thomas, and about the real reason he had chosen me. The envelope in Master Thomas's hand trembled slightly as he held it out to me. The wax seal bore a crest I did not recognize, deep crimson against cream paper that looked expensive, the kind regular folk would never touch. His eyes darted to the door, then back to me, filled with something I had never seen before in his face, genuine fear. "You can read, can you not?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. Mama had taught me in secret, using a torn Bible she had smuggled piece by piece from the main house. Teaching enslaved people to read was illegal in Georgia, punishable by whipping or worse. But knowledge, Mama always said, was the one thing they could not take from us once we had it. "Yes, Master," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Even acknowledging this felt dangerous. "I thought so. You are clever, Clara. Too clever for your own good sometimes." He thrust the envelope toward me. "Read this. Tell no one. Not your mother, not the other servants, not a soul. Do you understand?" I took the letter with shaking hands. The paper felt smooth, rich, nothing like the rough materials we were permitted to touch. Breaking the seal felt like committing a crime, though I was only following orders. The words inside made my blood run cold. The letter was from a man named Jonathan Whitmore, writing from somewhere up north, Pennsylvania, the address said. The words were formal but urgent, speaking of our arrangement, of the cause, of supplies and information that must reach certain parties. It took me 3 readings to understand what I was holding. Evidence that Master Thomas Whitmore, one of the largest slaveholders in the county, was secretly helping enslaved people escape north. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the paper. Master Thomas snatched it back, holding it over the lamp flame until it caught fire, then dropping the burning remains into a metal bowl where they turned to ash. You understand why this must remain secret, he said. Not a question, but a statement. If word got out, I would be ruined. Worse than ruined, I would be hanged, and every enslaved person on this plantation would be sold south to the worst conditions imaginable, including your mother. I understood perfectly. This was why he had chosen me, cultivated me, brought me close. Not because he loved me, but because he needed someone he could control, someone who could read and write, someone who would have everything to lose if his secret was revealed. What do you need me to do? I asked, because there was always something needed. Nothing was ever shared without purpose. My brother Jonathan runs an operation in Pennsylvania. They help runaways reach freedom. But they need information. Which plantations have the cruelest overseers? Which routes are being watched? Which enslaved people are planning to run? I provide that information. He paused, pouring himself another whiskey. But I cannot write the letters myself. My handwriting is too recognizable. Elizabeth has access to my study. I need someone who can write like an educated northerner, someone no one would suspect. Me. He needed me to be his secret scribe, to pen the letters that helped others escape while I remained in chains. The irony was not lost on me, bitter and sharp as poison. Why? The question escaped before I could stop it. Why would you help them escape when you keep us here? His face darkened, and for a moment I thought he might strike me for my insolence. But then something shifted in his expression. Something like guilt or shame or perhaps just weariness. My father built this plantation on the backs of enslaved people, he said quietly. When I was young, I thought nothing of it. It was simply the way things were. But then I went to university in the north, met people who opened my eyes to the evil we were perpetrating. I wanted to free everyone, sell the plantation, move north, but my father threatened to disinherit me, to give everything to my brother instead. I was a coward, Clara. I chose wealth and comfort over principle. He drank deeply, his face flushed with alcohol and emotion. But I can do this one thing. I can help some people escape, even if I am too weak to give up my own privilege. It is not enough, I know. It will never be enough, but it is something. I stood there, processing this revelation. The man who owned me, who used me, who claimed to love me, was also secretly working against the very institution that gave him power over me. It should have made me feel something positive, perhaps gratitude or hope. Instead, I felt a deep, burning anger. You help others escape, I said slowly, while keeping me here. You free strangers while claiming to love me, yet you never thought to offer me freedom. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush us both. Master Thomas set down his glass and looked at me. Really looked at me, perhaps for the first time since this all began. If you escaped, they would know I helped you, he said finally. I would be exposed, everything would collapse. Hundreds of people who might be saved through our network would lose that chance. And you, Clara, if you were caught, which you almost certainly would be as a runaway from my own plantation, you would face horrors that I cannot even speak of. So I must remain enslaved so that others might be free, I said flatly. I must be your secret keeper, your letter writer, your mistress, all while watching others escape to the freedom I can never have. I will free you, he said desperately. In my will, I have arranged it. When I die, you will be freed. You and your mother both. I promise you, Clara. Promises from masters were worth less than the paper they were written on. I had seen too many deathbed promises broken. Too many wills contested and overturned. But what choice did I have? I was caught in a web far more complex than I had imagined, and the threads were tightening around me. I will do it, I said, because I had to. I will write your letters. And so began the strangest period of my enslavement. By day, I continued my duties in the main house, enduring Mrs. Elizabeth's cruelty and Master Thomas's attentions. But late at night, I would slip into his study, where he would dictate information to me in whispered tones. I learned to write in a masculine hand, to use the formal language of business correspondence. I learned the codes. Shipments meant escaping people. Cargo meant how many. Delivery routes meant the paths north to freedom. The letters revealed an entire underground network I had never imagined. There were white people, free black people, even some sympathetic enslavers who passed information or looked the other way. There were safe houses, hidden rooms, disguises, and false papers. There was an entire shadow world working to undermine the very system that held us captive. Through these letters, I learned of successful escapes that gave me hope and failed attempts that broke my heart. I learned of people who made it to Canada and freedom, who changed their names and built new lives. And I learned of those who were caught, dragged back, made examples of with whippings and brandings and worse. Mama noticed the change in me, though I could tell her nothing. "You are carrying a heavy burden, baby girl," she said one evening as we sat outside the quarters, the summer crickets singing around us. "Whatever it is, do not let it crush you. You are stronger than any weight they put on you." But I was not sure I was strong enough for this. The knowledge I carried felt like swallowing fire. Every time I passed other enslaved people working in the fields, bent under the brutal sun, I thought about the letters I was writing to help others escape. Why them and not us? Why should fate choose some for freedom while others remained in chains? Then one evening, as I was writing yet another letter, I noticed something odd. Master Thomas was dictating information about a woman named Sarah, who was planning to escape from a neighboring plantation. But I recognized the description. It was Sarah Henderson, who sometimes came to our plantation for church services. She was pregnant, due to give birth in a few months. "Master," I said carefully, "this woman Sarah, she is with child. The journey north is dangerous. Will she be safe?" His face clouded. "The child is her master's," he said quietly. "He has already sold her other 2 children away. When this one is born, he plans to sell it too. She would rather risk death trying to escape than bring another child into this world, only to have it torn from her arms." I felt tears burn my eyes. This was the reality we lived in. Children sold away from mothers like livestock, families destroyed for profit, women used and discarded. And here I sat, helping to write about it as if it were a business transaction. "Does it ever bother you?" I asked, the question escaping before wisdom could stop it. Writing about human suffering as if it were shipping schedules? Master Thomas flinched as if I had struck him. "Every day," he whispered, "every single day. But what else can I do? This is the only way I know to help, the only thing I can do without destroying everything." I understood then that he was a prisoner too, just in a different kind of cell. He was trapped by wealth, by family expectations, by the society that had raised him to believe his comfort was more important than our humanity. His chains were made of gold and property deeds, but they were chains nonetheless. The difference was that he had chosen his chains while ours had been forced upon us. The work continued through that winter and into spring. I wrote dozens of letters, each one representing lives hanging in the balance. Some nights I would dream of all the people I was helping escape, see their faces in my mind, though I had never met them. Other nights I would dream I was the one running, feel the dogs at my heels, wake up gasping for air. Then one March evening, everything shifted again. Mrs. Elizabeth burst into the study without knocking, her face white with rage. I barely had time to hide the letter I was writing under a book. "What is she doing here at this hour?" she demanded, her voice shrill enough to shatter glass. "Thomas, this is beyond propriety. The whole county talks about your mistress. Do you have no shame?" "Elizabeth, return to your room," Master Thomas said coldly. "This does not concern you." "Does not concern me? You parade your sin in front of God and everyone, and you say it does not concern me?" She turned her fury on me, and I saw murder in her eyes. "You think you are special, girl? You think you have won something? You are just one in a long line. When he tires of you, there will be another, and another. You are nothing but property, and you would do well to remember that." Her words should have hurt, but I had heard worse. What struck me was the brokenness underneath her rage. This woman had been sold into marriage, just as surely as I had been sold into slavery. Her chains were different, made of social expectations and legal constraints that gave her husband control over her entire life. We were both prisoners of men who believed they had the right to own us. "Get out," Master Thomas said to his wife, his voice dangerous. "Now." She left, but not before shooting me a look of pure hatred. As her footsteps faded down the hallway, Master Thomas buried his face in his hands. "This cannot continue," he said. "She grows more suspicious. If she discovers what we are really doing, what these letters contain." He did not need to finish. We both knew what would happen. Discovery meant death for him, torture and probably death for me, and the end of the entire network that was saving lives. "Perhaps we should stop," I suggested, though the words felt like betrayal of all those people waiting for the information that could mean their freedom. "No," he said firmly. "We cannot stop. Too many people depend on this. But we must be more careful. Perhaps I should teach you the entire system. The contacts, the safe houses, the routes. If something happens to me, someone must carry on this work." And so he began to reveal the full scope of the operation, trusting me with secrets that could bring down dozens of people across multiple states. I memorized names, addresses, code words. I learned which ship captains could be bribed, which roads were watched, which towns had sympathetic sheriffs. What Master Thomas did not know was that with each piece of information he shared, I was constructing my own plan. Not for his network, but for my own escape. Because I had realized something fundamental. I did not want to wait for freedom to be granted to me in some distant future. I wanted to take it, to seize it with both hands. But there was still one piece of the puzzle I did not understand. Something about the way Master Thomas spoke about the network, about his brother Jonathan, felt incomplete. There was something he was not telling me, some deeper secret lurking beneath the surface of this already dangerous work. And I was determined to discover what it was. The heat of July 1849 pressed down on the plantation like a physical weight, making even breathing feel like labor. I had been Master Thomas's secret scribe for nearly a year now. My hands had penned countless letters, each one a small rebellion against the system that held us captive. But something had changed in recent weeks. Master Thomas had become nervous, jumping at shadows, drinking more than usual. Late one evening, he called me to his study with unusual urgency. The door was locked behind me, curtains drawn tight though the room sweltered in the trapped heat. On his desk lay a different kind of letter, this one already opened. The paper crumpled, as though it had been read and reread many times. "Clara," he said, his voice hoarse, "I must tell you something. Something I should have revealed long ago, but I was too much a coward." He poured whiskey with shaking hands, drank it in one swallow. "Jonathan is not just my brother. He is my twin brother, and he is not merely sympathetic to the cause of abolition. Jonathan is not white, Clara. He is like you." The words made no sense at first, bouncing off my understanding like stones off water. "I do not understand, Master. My mother, before she married my father, had an affair with one of the enslaved men on her family's plantation. She became pregnant with twins. With us. The confession spilled from him like poison being drawn from a wound. Her family was horrified. They forced her to give up one child. Jonathan was taken as an infant, sold away. Our father never knew. No one knew except my mother and her parents. I sat down without being given permission, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. "You are saying your twin brother was born into slavery?" "He was freed by the family that bought him, a Quaker family in Pennsylvania who were opposed to slavery. They raised him as their own, educated him, gave him their name. When we were adults, my mother, on her deathbed, confessed everything. She gave me the information to find him. I did, and when we met, it was like looking into a mirror that showed me what my life would have been if the color of my skin had been just slightly different. The implications crashed over me like ocean waves. So when you say you help people escape, I am trying to atone," he said desperately, "for my mother's sin, for my own cowardice. Jonathan could have been whipped, worked to death, treated as I treat you. The only difference between his life and what it could have been was an accident of birth and a family's mercy. How could I know that and do nothing? I felt something shift inside me, a fundamental reordering of everything I thought I understood. Does Mrs. Elizabeth know? No. God, no. She would expose everything if she knew. My entire inheritance depends on my legitimacy as my father's sole heir. If the truth came out, the estate could be contested. Jonathan could potentially claim half of everything, including this plantation and everyone on it, including me. The thought hung unspoken between us. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. He handed me the crumpled letter. "Read it." The handwriting was similar to Master Thomas's, but with subtle differences. Jonathan's words were urgent, warning that slave catchers from the south had infiltrated some of the northern safe houses. They were collecting evidence, building a case, preparing to make arrests that would destroy the entire network. Several prominent abolitionists had already been questioned. It was only a matter of time before the trail led back to Master Thomas. "We must stop," I said immediately. "This is too dangerous. We cannot stop. There are 3 families waiting for information right now. Without it, they will attempt escape on routes that are being watched. They will be caught, made examples of. I cannot let that happen. So what will you do?" He looked at me with something like hope, something like desperation. "I am going north. In 3 weeks, I must travel to Atlanta on business. From there, I will continue north to Philadelphia. I will meet with Jonathan, assess the damage, decide how to proceed. While I am gone, no letters can be sent. It is too risky. But when I return, if it is safe to continue, we will resume the work." 3 weeks without the constant tension of the secret letters felt like a reprieve, but there was something else in his eyes, something he was not saying. "Master, why do you look at me like that?" "Clara," he said slowly, carefully, "what if you came with me?" The world seemed to stop spinning. "What?" "Not as a slave, but as a free woman. I could give you papers, declare you freed. We could travel together to the north, and then you would truly be free. You would never have to return to Georgia. You could start a new life anywhere you choose." It was everything I had dreamed of, offered on a silver platter. Freedom, true freedom. And yet something about the way he said it made my skin prickle with warning. "What about Mama?" I asked quietly. His silence was answer enough. "You would free me, but not her," I said. Not a question. I would go north while she remained here in chains. "I cannot free everyone at once," he said defensively. "It would raise too many questions. But later, after things settle, I could arrange for your mother to be freed as well. I swear it, Clara." There it was again. Another promise. Another carrot dangled just out of reach. And this time, the price was abandoning my mother. "I need time to think," I said, standing. "This is not a decision to make lightly." "Of course," he said, but I could see the disappointment in his face. He had expected me to jump at the chance, to be grateful for the opportunity. He had not considered that freedom without family might feel more like exile than liberation. That night, I told Mama everything. It was a risk, breaking the silence I had maintained for so long, but I could not make this decision alone. We sat in her small cabin, the darkness pierced only by a single candle that cast our shadows large and strange against the walls. Mama listened without interrupting, her face growing more grave with each revelation. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time, staring into the candle flame as if it might hold answers. "Baby girl," she finally said, "you need to understand something. Master Thomas is not offering you freedom out of love. He is offering you escape from the consequences of his own actions. If things collapse, if he is exposed, you are the evidence that could destroy him. You know too much. He needs you gone." The truth of her words hit me like a physical blow. "You think he is trying to get rid of me. I think he is trying to protect himself. And maybe, in his own twisted way, he believes he is protecting you too. But Clara, listen to me carefully. If you go north with him, you will still be bound to him. Maybe not by chains, but by secrets and obligation and the gratitude he will expect you to feel forever. You will trade one kind of bondage for another." "But I would be free," I whispered. "Legally free. Yes, and I would be here, alone, growing older, wondering if I will ever see my daughter again." Her voice cracked, tears glistening in the candlelight. "But I would know you were safe, and that would be enough for me." I took her weathered hands in mine. I cannot leave you. I will not. You might have to, she said gently. Baby girl, something bad is coming. I can feel it in my bones. This whole arrangement with the secret letters and the northern brother, it is a powder keg waiting for a spark. When it explodes, and it will explode, you need to be far away from here. Then you must come too. We will demand it, both of us or neither. Mama smiled sadly. You think Master Thomas will agree to that? He barely wants to free you. Freeing me too would cost him more money, raise more questions. And if he refuses, what will you do? Stay here out of loyalty to an old woman whose best years are behind her. You are my mother, I said fiercely. I will not abandon you for any reason. Even if staying means we both remain enslaved forever? The question hung in the air between us, unanswerable and terrible. Before I could respond, we heard voices outside, angry voices. I blew out the candle quickly, and we sat in darkness, listening. It was the overseer, a cruel man named Patterson, and he had several other men with him. Their torches cast flickering light through the cracks in the cabin walls. This is the one, Patterson said. The one the master keeps in the big house. Been telling you, something ain't right about that arrangement. Master's wife suspects something too. We just want to ask her some questions, another voice said. This one I did not recognize, but it carried the authority of education and money. We have reason to believe there is underground railroad activity in this area, and we need to investigate all possibilities. My heart stopped. Someone was investigating. Someone knew something, and they were starting with me. She ain't here, Patterson said, after checking the cabin where I was supposed to sleep, the small room in the back of the main house. Probably warming the master's bed like the Jezebel she is. Then we will wait, the educated voice said. All night if necessary. Mama gripped my hand so tightly I thought the bones might break. We sat in the darkness of her cabin, barely breathing, praying they would not think to look for me here. Outside, the men settled in to wait, their torches burning like small pieces of hell imported to Earth. You have to run, Mama whispered in my ear, so quietly I almost could not hear. Tonight. Now. Before they find you. I do not even know where to go. I do not have papers. You know the routes. You wrote dozens of letters about them. You know the contacts, the safe houses. Use what Master Thomas taught you. Use it to save yourself. But the men outside, there is a back way through the old tobacco field. They are watching the front of the quarters. Go now, Clara. Go while you still can. Everything was happening too fast. I was not prepared for this. I had no bag packed, no food stored, no plan in place. This was the worst possible circumstance for running, the thing every enslaved person feared. A sudden, desperate flight with no preparation and enemies already searching for you. Mama, I said, tears streaming down my face. I love you. I know, baby girl. I have always known. Now go, and do not look back, no matter what you hear. Promise me. I promise. She pushed me toward the back of the cabin, where a loose board could be removed to create a small opening. I squeezed through, my dress tearing on the rough wood, and then I was outside in the humid night. Behind me, I could still hear the men talking, waiting for me to return to a place I would never see again. I ran. I ran through the old tobacco field, the dried stalks catching at my dress and skin. I ran through the woods beyond, branches slapping my face in the darkness. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs trembled, and still I kept running, because stopping meant capture, and capture meant horrors I could not allow myself to imagine. Somewhere behind me, I heard shouts. They had discovered I was gone. The hunt had begun, and I had just become a fugitive. The moss-covered trees of the Georgia forest seemed to close in around me as I ran, their Spanish moss hanging like funeral shrouds in the moonlight. Every sound was a threat, every shadow a potential enemy. I had been running for perhaps 2 hours when I finally had to stop, collapsing against an old oak tree, gasping for air that my burning lungs could not seem to hold. I was a fugitive now, a runaway. The word itself carried enough fear to make grown men tremble. Slave catchers with their dogs, patrols with their guns, bounty hunters eager to collect the reward that would surely be posted. And unlike other runaways who might disappear into anonymity, I carried secrets that made me especially valuable. If caught, I would not just be punished. I would be interrogated, tortured if necessary, until I revealed everything I knew about Master Thomas's network. The night was alive with sounds, owls hooting, insects chirping, and in the distance, something that might have been dogs. I forced myself to move again, knowing I had to put more distance between myself and the plantation before sunrise. But where was I going? I knew the routes from the letters I had written, but those routes all started from specific places, had specific contacts. I was in the wrong location, without papers, without help. Think, Clara. Use what you know. Master Thomas had once dictated a letter about a colored woman named Ruth who operated a safe house near Macon. She posed as a free woman, a seamstress who took in laundry. Runaways would come to her door as customers, and she would hide them until it was safe to move them north. But Macon was at least 40 miles away, and I had no idea how I would get there without being caught. The first rule of running was to avoid roads. Patrols watched the roads, stopping any person of color to check their papers. Without papers declaring me free, I would be arrested immediately. So I stayed in the woods, using the North Star to keep my direction. Mama had taught me that when I was young, pointing out the drinking gourd constellation and its eternal pointer toward freedom. By dawn, I was exhausted, hungry, and terrified. I found a hollow beneath a fallen log and curled inside it, pulling dead leaves over myself for concealment. The space was barely large enough for my body, and I could feel insects crawling over my skin, but I did not dare move. In the distance, I heard dogs barking, men shouting. They were looking for me. I stayed hidden all day, drifting in and out of a fitful sleep filled with nightmares. In my dreams, I saw Mama being questioned, perhaps punished for my escape. I saw Master Thomas arrested, his network destroyed. I saw myself caught, dragged back, made an example of. The dreams were so vivid that when I finally woke fully, it took me a moment to remember where I was. As darkness fell again, I crawled out of my hiding place, every muscle aching. I had not eaten in over 24 hours, and thirst was becoming a serious problem. I found a small creek and drank deeply, knowing the water might make me sick, but having no choice. Then I began walking north again, my torn dress catching on every branch, my shoes, thin to begin with, falling apart under the rough treatment. The second night of running was harder than the first. My initial adrenaline had worn off, replaced by the grinding reality of exhaustion and fear. Several times I heard people nearby and had to hide, once spending 3 hours crouched in a muddy ditch while a patrol passed not 20 feet from where I lay. Mosquitoes feasted on my exposed skin, but I did not dare move to swat them away. By the third day, I was delirious with hunger. I risked approaching a small cabin that looked abandoned, hoping to find something, anything to eat. Inside, I found a few withered potatoes and a jar of preserves that had gone slightly bad. I ate them anyway, the sweet sour taste of the preserves mixing with tears of gratitude for this small mercy. It was in this cabin that I found something else, an old newspaper dated 3 months prior. The paper was being used to line a drawer, but I carefully pulled it out and read by the fading light. My hands began to shake as I saw the headline, "Underground Railroad Conductor Arrested in Philadelphia, Network Stretching Through Multiple States Exposed." The article detailed the arrest of several abolitionists, including a man named Jonathan Whitmore. The name sent ice through my veins. Master Thomas's brother had been arrested. The network was compromised, and if they had taken Jonathan, how long before they traced the connections back to Georgia? Everything made horrible sense now. The strange men questioning people at the plantation were not just looking for general information about Underground Railroad activity. They were following a specific trail that led directly to Master Thomas, and I, as his scribe and confidant, was the key witness they needed. I could never go back now. Even if I wanted to, returning would mean certain death, not just for me, but potentially for everyone who had ever been involved in the network. I had to get north, had to disappear completely, had to become someone else entirely. The newspaper also contained advertisements for runaway slaves. I scanned them with morbid fascination, reading descriptions of people who had fled their bondage, the rewards offered for their return. Then I saw it, my own description, or close enough. 20-year-old Negro wench, answers to Clara. light-skinned, can read and write, property of Thomas Whitmore of Whitmore Plantation, Georgia. $500 reward for her return. $500, an enormous sum. That amount of money would motivate bounty hunters across multiple states. I was worth more dead or alive than most people would earn in 5 years of labor. My literacy, the very thing that had made me valuable to Master Thomas, was now being advertised as a distinguishing characteristic that would help identify me. I burned the newspaper, watching my description curl and blacken in the small fire I had built. Then I cut my hair with a piece of broken glass I found in the cabin, hacking off the long curls that Master Thomas had always admired. I rubbed dirt into my skin to make myself look darker, dirtier, more like a field hand than a house servant. I tore my dress further, making myself look wretched and poor. I had to become invisible, unremarkable, just another colored person among thousands. On the 4th night, I finally reached the outskirts of Macon. The city glowed in the distance, lights from windows and street lamps creating an artificial dawn. I had never been to a city before, never seen so many buildings clustered together. The sight was both thrilling and terrifying. Finding Ruth the seamstress's house was harder than I expected. I had the address memorized from the letters, but actually navigating the city streets meant risking exposure. I waited until very late, until most people had gone to bed, then crept through back alleys and side streets, constantly alert for patrols or bounty hunters. Ruth's house was a small, neat structure with a sign in the window advertising laundry services. I approached the back door, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. What if she turned me away? What if the house was being watched? What if this was all a trap? I knocked 3 times, paused, knocked twice more. This was the signal I had written about in one of the letters, though I had never imagined I would be the one using it. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the door opened a crack and a woman's face appeared, suspicious and wary. "I need laundry done," I said, using the code phrase. "I've been traveling and my clothes are very dirty. I..."